fact, let me just introduce this piece of information to our viewers before I go on to my other panelists as well. President Putin's visit to India is emerging as a gateway to renewed and expanded cooperation between the two nations. Among the key agreements on the table is the India-Russia Labour Mobility Pact. Now, the pact holds the possibility to open new avenues for Indian youth seeking opportunities abroad. The pact is expected to help the government build a structured and transparent migration system, ensuring that workers travel through authorized channels and enjoy clear legal protections. If finalized, it would mark a significant step in safeguarding the rights of Indian workers overseas and while strengthening the broader India-Russia partnership. Let's take a look at what's all in this Labour Mobility Pact and how it is going to benefit both the nations. Now, remember that this will help streamline the workers and their legalities that come along with people actually working overseas, and hence we want to look at what are the likely pacts that India and Russia might sign going forward. So, let's look at this India-Russia Labour Mobility Pact. What is the pact? A formal agreement enabling movement of Indian workers to Russia. It provides a legal framework to protect the rights of Indian workers. So, remember why this is very important is because we have had various cases of Indian workers actually being stranded in Russia without any legal rights, and hence this pact seems to be the cornerstone of how the labour mobility will look like between both the nations. Now, details of the pact: it covers skilled and it also covers semi-skilled labour with regulated contracts and workplace protections. It streamlines recruitment through authorized channels to prevent fraud. So, we have had cases where there have been cases where people have been the victims of a fraud when it comes to this, and we have the Russian officials on record stating that you should always verify from where you are getting recruited, and I think this pact will help streamline that process. Why is this pact important? It opens a new pillar of cooperation beyond defense, energy and trade, and addresses Russia's workforce gap while offering India as a stable migration route. So, it's a win-win for both the country. Russia has this workforce gap and Indian workers will be able to fulfill that if this pact actually finalizes all the framework. Now, benefits for India: it creates job opportunities for Indian youth across industrial sectors, and it also builds a long-term economic partnership with Russia. So, apart from providing job opportunities, this is also an economic partnership with our all-weather friend. And what are the benefits for Russia? It will help fill critical labour shortages in manufacturing and electronics, supports Russia's industrial output with a reliable workforce. So, Russia has been facing a lot of shortages over here in the workforce in manufacturing and electronics, and hence this will actually help, this pact will help streamline the entire process. So, like we have been stating that this is one of the pacts that is likely to be discussed, but remember that this is just another aspect of this entire summit that everybody is discussing. Also joining us on the broadcast is Professor Aman Agarwal, who is the Director of Indian Institute of Finance. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on this broadcast. A very good morning to you. When we are looking at the financial and economic side of this entire summit, we are looking at a trade deficit that India is facing. We are looking at India making sure that the trade deficit is somehow balanced, because we want to look at more avenues of cooperation. We want to look at more areas where we can export and fill that trade deficit, and also make sure that the crude oil, which forms a major part of that trade deficit, is reduced to a certain extent, sir. So, how do you look at this?
You see, as far as the major components of agreements which have taken place so far and which are expected to take place during this visit, I personally feel it's a win-win situation for India as well as Russia. We are expected, if the agreements are implemented in totality, I would suggest that there will be roughly about a 1% gain in the total GDP growth, which is expected out of the deals which are going on with Russia. And we should look at trade both either as deficit or surplus, not as surplus or deficit, because once we are importing certain things, that does create deficit. But then, if we are able to reduce our overall cost with the imports, when it comes to either pharmaceuticals or fertilizers, or it's a question of defense, if we're able to reduce our cost of production as a result of the imports which we are doing, or even in case of oil, like we have had in the last 1 year, the average oil price has been at a certain rate. We have been getting a discounted rate of oil from Russia. So naturally, if we are able to reduce that, our cost of operations reduce, and as a result, the government has not reduced the oil price in the market. So they're able to create a huge amount of surplus as reserves. All these oil companies are able to create huge reserves, which will ultimately take care of any kind of uncertainty which may come up tomorrow, or even go for expansions. So we should not look at deficits as a negative factor. Trade deficits and trade surpluses always happen. What we need to look at is the fact that is India going to benefit in the long run or not? Whether it is import or exports, we benefit in both cases. And with Russia, we have had a relationship, since independence, in fact, before independence as well. So we've had a very long-term, stable, and confident, trustworthy relationship with Russia, and that has always gone up, irrespective of the trade or the diplomatic relationships we have developed with other countries, including countries which Russia doesn't see eye to eye with, countries like United States or Ukraine or others of similar nature, where it doesn't see eye to eye. Even there, we have developed strategic ties and not hampered the relationship which we have enjoyed with Russia. This visit of Honorable President Putin is another step further to reconfirm the fact that Russia-India relationship remains intact, irrespective of the ties it has with any other country across the globe.
Absolutely. And also, Professor, how do you look at the Labour Mobility Pact that we were just talking about? If you caught a glimpse of what we were trying to introduce to our viewers, what's the significance and the importance of it going forward for India and Russia both?
Labor movement, specifically when Trump has introduced H-1B visa restrictions, there it comes into a play, which it is a positive step. But then there are other concerns when it comes to Russia in specific. You see, mobility of funds or transfer of funds from Russia to other countries is a little restriction, like it has been for people working in the UAE. Not that Indians have not worked and prospered the Arabic region, so as to say, and a lot of people have benefited by working there, bringing money back. But there it has been a little difficult in terms of the way you can actually send money back and so on and so forth. Russia, despite the advancement in banking, has restrictions because of the embargoes placed by Europe or US and others internationally on the transfer of ruble or conversion of ruble into dollars or any other currency per se. If that is also being taken care in this agreement, I think that would certainly benefit. But as we have seen with CIS countries and or the erstwhile USSR countries and Russia in particular, movement of funds out of Russia is also still a big concern in terms of anyone wanting to seek employment. So labor, that certainly legal aspects is benefited. People will not have problems when trying to look for a job or seeking appointments there in Russia. That is a very big win here. But the movement of funds also is critical, whether it's a question of conversion from ruble to INR, or it is a conversion from ruble to any other currency when they're wanting to move these funds out as salaries or as commissions of their goods they supplied to Russia. Now, that is something which still needs to be looked upon, since I do not have the full agreement or the insights of agreement, and it is not come in public domain as to what exactly are the terms which they have decided on. It is only labor related, or is it also committed to the payments which are being made to the labor in rubles getting transferred. So that is something which will also determine what kind of labor mobility we will see from India going to Russia. But as I said before, strategically we have been there, government to government, culture to culture. We have strong ties. People move for tourism, travel, cultural relationships, even from government of India to Russia and Russia to India. Large number of inter-school, inter-college transfers of teachers and other staff takes place. And not now. When I was a young student studying in school that 40 years back, even at that time we had a Russian teacher coming to our school where I was studying. So this is something which is a very important critical component which benefits that these people can even look at employment here, and similarly our people when they go there in Russia can look at employment there as well.
Absolutely. Shruti Dasgupta, if I could come back to you, how do you look at this entire Labour Mobility Pact? Because this is an entire new avenue that India and Russia are exploring. And over the years, we have been seeing, cases of scams, cases of fraud that have come to the fore. We have many Indians who have actually been stuck over there due to legal procedures. So, firstly, what do you think motivated India and Russia to actually talk on that front? And secondly, how do you look at this entire pact?
Well, I don't think the Labour Pact has come